can watch it later. Yeah? Well, my name's Brian Osowski. I'm the marketing director for the VCB. I want to thank everybody for coming today. Originally, this started, we run some grant funding programs for arts and attraction partners, and as well as event partners, several of whom here are in the room with us today. And Nancy McPhee, who most of you know, unfortunately couldn't be here with us today. She had to go home unexpectedly. Yes? Oh.
She's turning it.
Thank you. We're working together on this. We'll get it done. Thank you. You got us?
Yes.
Okay. So Nancy couldn't be here today. She had to leave right after lunch unexpectedly. But you'll have the rest of the VCB marketing team here. Again, my name's Brian. I'm the marketing director. You have Leslie Ann Thompson, my marketing manager for programs and campaigns. Courtney Hersel, our content marketing manager, and Josh Lambert, our marketing specialist. So originally today, this workshop was going to be specifically for our funding recipients, arts and attractions funding, events funding, just to kind of help bring everybody up to speed on some best practices and ways to be involved and engaged with the VCB. Think of this more as a two-way conversation today. You know, we put these things together, and I sometimes feel like we do a lot of talking at you, so today we'd like to talk with you, right? So in front of you, you're going to see you've got some fancy wireless microphones so that we don't have to pass this big one around. I just do this because I have one of those over here, but I'm a pacer, you know, so I like to pace, and I can't do that with one of those. So let's go around the room really fast. Do you want to do that? You think we have time? Let's go around the room really fast. If everybody could just give a quick introduction and where you're from, and keep in mind, we need you to, are you going to activate, Lisa, everybody's...
They should all be on green. If it's not, touch the bottom and it'll turn green.
Is everybody on green? All right, you don't have to hold it right up to your face or anything. You can just talk pretty normal and just introduce yourself. One other piece of housekeeping regarding parking. We do have the stamp for parking validation here. I think Lisa's got that. So make sure that you see Lisa before you go. Okay, let's start right over here. Let's just go around the room real quick.
Hello, I'm Thomas Heckard from the Everglades Wonder Gardens.
Hi, I'm Robin from the Cape Coral Art League.
I'm Tom Flaherty and Pam Flaherty from the Fort Myers Beach Art Association.
I'm Stella Egan from Florida Southwestern State College.
I'm Stefan Stanisic from Center for the Arts Bonito Springs, Marketing Director.
I'm Yvonne Hill, and I'm with the Southwest Florida Historical Society and also the Lead Trust for Historic Preservation.
Allison Hussey with the Cape Coral Festival of the Arts, the Rotary Club.
Natalie David with the Fort Myers Beach Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Joanne Paulino, and I'm on the board of the Symphonic Chorale of Southwest Florida and responsible for marketing.
I'm Brian Holloway with Captain Brian on the Water. I operate out of Captiva Island, and I do shelling, nature, wildlife, and photography cruises.
And I'm Melanie Holloway. I'm here with my husband, Brian.
I'm Leslie Younghans, and I'm with Captiva Cruises.
Hi, everyone. This is Warren Van Kirk with Matlacha Mariners and local band Strange Arrangement. I'm Gregory Van Kirk with Strange Arrangement.
I'm Mike Calusa, Blue Way Piling Trail, and that's Jasmine with the Lee County Parks and Rec.
Hi, I'm Donna Brown from Sundial Beach Resort and Spa in Sanibel.
Hi, I'm Angela Patain, the marketing manager at the Sidney and Byrne Davis Art Center.
I'm Michelle Wesley with Gulf Shore Opera.
I'm Lance from the Sanibel Community Association.
I'm Mary Kaufman. I'm with Pier Florida. We do sunset and sightseeing cruises right out of the Marina Edison Ford, but I'm here representing the Southwest Florida Attractions Association.
I'm Allison Geeson from the Mound House on Fort Myers Beach.
Well, there's a lot of talented people in this room, isn't there? That's great. Thank you guys all for coming out today, and we hope you get a lot out of this. I think Elizabeth, where did she go? She got out of introducing herself. Elizabeth Escribano is here. She's our MMGY agency rep, who a lot of you work with on co-ops. She'll probably sneak back into the back here in a little bit. So today, just a quick agenda, just some of the things that we're going to be covering today. First thing, we can already check it off the list. We're going to be talking about some social marketing tips and tricks with Courtney. And LA is going to talk to you about media buying. Yours truly will explain geofencing and how we utilize that technology. And then Josh is going to talk some website, VCB website, and ways that you can be engaged. So to kick things off, it will be Courtney.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us today. So before I get started, I just want to see by a show of hands, who actually manages social media on a daily basis? Like you're the one in the grind every day, posting, making posts, creating content. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, so, I mean, social media is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. I'm sure many of you guys know that. But we're just going to walk through some tips and tricks that hopefully can help you evaluate what you're currently doing, maybe give you some inspiration for what you may want to do in the future. So we'll get right into it. So tip number 1, use the right platforms. So as many of you probably know, there's tons of social media platforms out there. These are just a few of the main ones, but there's so many, and it's very difficult to try to choose where do you need to be, what platforms do you need to use. So just some questions to ask yourself about what you're currently doing, and if you're considering maybe dabbling in other platforms. Is the platform adding value to your business? Are you getting anything out of it? And does it help you achieve your goals? I mean, chances are all of you guys work for a business that has objectives, goals, things you're trying to accomplish and achieve. So try to take a step back and just think about what channels you're on and how that's adding value to you and how it's helping you achieve your goals. And then another point to consider is your target audience using the platform? A lot of times people just jump in, they're posting on social media platforms, they're just on it because people are telling them that they need to be on it. But, is it a little too loud?
Just asking Lisa to turn it down.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hearing all that feedback, right? We'll get it right.
So
all this stuff is pretty new. I mean, they've got...
It's very high tech. Very high tech for us. So just making sure that you're aware of who your target audience is, who are those people that you're trying to capture, who do you want to see your messages, who do you want to see your posts, and all that information you're providing to them. First of all, nailing down who that target audience is, and then finding out where those people are, what platforms are they on a daily basis. And a good way to gauge that too is if you don't really know if you're in a certain industry and you're not really sure where you need to be, look at some of your competitors. There's a lot of people out there that are doing social really well that you may look up to, that you may consider as one of your biggest competitors. Go online, start looking up their channels, see what channels they're on, see what kind of content they're putting out there, how frequently that they're posting on their channels. Are people engaging with them? Are people responding to what they have to say? And kind of seeing what some of your competitors are doing well and maybe trying to replicate that for yourself, or just trying to create kind of like a baseline in your head of maybe where you need to be or what you need to do. So number 2, engage with your audience. So they call social media for a reason, because you're supposed to be social and you're supposed to be engaging and having conversations with your customers, your followers, your potential customers. So it's really important that when you are on these social platforms that you are putting messages out there that are approachable, that you're making your brand, your business approachable and conversational. So there's 2 different ways that you can, approach the vehicle in which you use social media. Some people use it as a broadcast tool where it's like, here's my product, buy it today. Here's my business, please come visit us today. And while some people use that tactic, a lot of times that's off-putting. Social media is meant to be a conversational platform where people can share ideas, give their opinions, whether it's good or bad. I'm sure all of you guys have experienced that. But make sure that you are opening the door to have a conversation. So putting not just a broadcast, not using it as a broadcast vehicle, but using it as an engagement vehicle. You want to engage with these people. You want to provide them with valuable information. You want, really this is the digital way that you engage your business, your brand, with your customers. And nowadays, social media is really used as almost another form of customer service. So depending on what your business or your brand is, it's really important that you respond in a timely manner to comments and questions. A lot of times people will find you on Facebook and they may have a question about what time you open or what your prices are or whatever it may be. And it's really important that you're monitoring that on a daily basis if possible and responding in a timely manner. Preferably within 24 hours. I know you all probably wear a lot of different hats. You have a lot going on during the week, during the day. You may not be able to check your social media platforms every second of the day. But it's important to at least have that in the back of your mind that maybe in once a day you get on and check and see if you have any comments, questions. It's important to get back to your customers, and it's going to make you look better as well. And then making your social channels known. So whatever business it may be, you need to let your followers, your audience know where they can find you. What channels is your business on? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook? And is there a specific hashtag they should use? If you're on a boat trip, do you have social media, a hashtag or a business that you want your customers to tag? So when they're sharing their whole experience and what a great time they had in our destination, that you can go on and see if they mentioned you or if they had a good time and the pictures they're sharing. And not only would you making your social channels and your availability to your customers, just having them know where they can find you, it also opens the door for you to use, kind of regenerate the content that they're posting out there, which we like to call user-generated content, UGC for short. So when these people are posting pictures, it's very quick and easy to just regenerate that on your own channels. So not only are they pushing content out, but now you can regenerate this authentic, real-life experience to your followers, and it's much more engaging than just posting a stock photo or trying to make up something. This is actually a real-life interaction with your brand that people are going to be more interested in because it's authentic rather than, a stock image that any brand or business could use. So I have an example here, and this is what we do, and Mike, I think this is your picture. So when we find a picture on Instagram, they've tagged hashtag Fort Myers Sanibel, and we really like it. We're like, wow, that's really great. We really want to share it on our channels. What we do is we'll comment right on the picture, and you can kind of see, does this have a pointer? I don't want to mess anything up. Okay, yeah, so this picture here. So we'll just comment right on the picture, and we say, this is a fantastic photo, and we would love to be able to share it. To do so, please reply hashtag YesFortMyers. So what we did is just create a unique hashtag, YesFortMyers, very simple. You definitely want to make sure that you are researching that hashtag before you create it because somebody else may already be using it. But make it unique, and then they responded, Mike responded and said, at Fort Myers Sanibel, yes, we can use your photo. So that's permission from him that we can reuse it, and we ended up posting that on our Fort Myers Sanibel Instagram page. So it was easy. We asked Mike for permission, and then we have this authentic, real image that he took of his daughter fishing in our destination. It's beautiful, it's real, it's not made up, and it's very engaging. People love to see that, and they love to be able to have that idea in their head that they can put themselves in the destination. They want to go on vacation and do the same thing. It's just a more interesting, engaging way to involve your customers, your audience, whatever it may be. So moving on, number 3, quality content versus quantity. There's many, many things that you can find on the internet about how many times a day you should post on social media, how many posts a day on which channels and what times and whatever it may be. And my advice to all of you is do not post just for the sake of posting. Don't post because somebody told you, okay, I found this website that said I need to post 3 times a day on Instagram and 2 times on Facebook or whatever it may be. Don't feel like you have to follow whatever you may be hearing on the internet. Really, it's not a science. It's a lot of testing and learning. I've been doing social media for a while, and you have to find what works best for you. So don't feel like you have to just post something for the sake of posting it. Try to find quality information that's providing value to your followers. What information do they want to hear? Do you have any updates, upcoming events? Do you have price changes, or do you have anything exciting going on that you think that they will find value in? And another important point is be consistent and stay on brand. I'm sure all of you have established, who you are as a business, what your brand sounds like, what kind of voice you use when you're communicating with people. Make sure that you're using that on your social platforms. Make sure that you're staying on brand. I know I've seen many brands that almost use their business pages to portray personal interest or random things. So if you're an art association, you're probably not going to want to be posting about like the drink specials down the street, or like the water park's on sale this weekend, tickets are on sale. You want to stick to your brand, stick to what you know, stick to what the people that are following you are probably interested in. And providing accurate information is so important. There are so many people that they may find your social media channels before they ever look at your website. So just be aware of what channels you have information on, where you're putting out that information. Maybe keep a list or a document that has all the places that you posted your events or your upcoming tours or shows, and make sure that when that information changes that you're going on all of those platforms, all your social channels, and updating that information. Or if something changes last minute, that's okay. And it's okay if you make a mistake too. Maybe you put the wrong date, maybe you put the wrong time on something. Just call it out. Say, sorry, we put the wrong date out there. The event is actually happening this date, or this has been canceled, it's rescheduled for this date. As long as you're being open and honest, that's what social is all about. It's about having that conversation, being real. People make mistakes, but it's also important to just provide that accurate information. That's what people are looking for. And then lastly, all part of having quality content is using high resolution images and videos. So if you are using pictures, videos in your posts, it's important that those are clear, that they're captivating. A lot of people are scrolling through their news feeds every single day, whether it's on their phones or on their desktops. And it takes a lot for people to actually stop and look at what you're posting. So make sure your pictures are, they're vibrant, they're something of interest, at least to your followers. And using high-resolution images is super helpful. If they're blurry and people can't really see what it is, it doesn't represent your brand or your business very well either. So make sure that they're clear, that they're captivating, that it's of something of interest. You know your followers better than anybody. You know what they like. You know what they engage with. And if you're still trying to figure that out, you're probably testing and learning and posting things and figuring out what works and what doesn't. That's okay, but if you're finding that, we know beach pictures perform really well for us because people love the beach. And for us, that may seem redundant, but we know that people love the beach, and so we give them what they want. We post pictures of the beach almost every week. So just make sure you've got some really good images. And next up to, yeah.
Do we worry about low speeds on pages? I do the website. For the art center, we have lots of images, and they're all high images. The pages are loading.
So the size of your images?
Yeah, I try to manage them down, so, they don't quick enough, so it's a yin-yang. I love to give all the resolution possible.
Right. So there's ways that you could probably save the images, so they're still high resolution, they're just not as large. I'm not like the greatest at the website development part, so I'm sure if they're huge high resolution pictures, that could definitely slow down whatever the back end you're using, but right.
I don't know if Facebook has the same issue on the phones because they're smaller. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I mean,
because that's what the challenge is trying to provide high-res without slowing everything.
Okay, so right. So as far as social media goes, putting those images on social channels, there's actually one of these free tools. So depending on what your how much time, how much money you have to spend on social media, Some people don't have budgets to put behind social at all. That's okay. There's tons of tools out there that can help you. And even if you just Google, like Google exactly what you're looking for, I'm sure things will pop up. I can jump down to Canva, which is at the bottom here. Josh and I use this all the time. It's so fun. If you're not a graphic designer, it makes you feel like one. It's super fun. And before I get to that, I just want to point out a couple of these other free tools. So if you don't have time during the week to post on social media and you're creating maybe some content calendars ahead of time, there's ways that you can schedule those posts ahead of time. You can actually do that through Facebook, but Hootsuite is a really good resource. It allows you to schedule posts out into the future. You can monitor your channels. TweetDeck, it's basically another monitoring tool specifically for Twitter. You can also create custom streams in there where you can actually put in specific keywords or hashtags to track specific things. And I can't stress enough the analytics within the platforms you're on. So say you're on Facebook. There are analytics right there in Facebook that you can go in and you can learn so much about your audience, your followers, how old they are, their demographics, and then anything about your post from the engagement to likes, shares, all of that. So take advantage of the analytics and the insights on the platforms you're on, because I know it gets crazy during the week. We all have so much going on, but to just take a step back and be able to just go in there and actually look at how old are your followers? Are they male? Are they female? Which posts have gotten the most likes or engagements or shares or whatever it is. It's really important to just kind of take a step back every now and then and check out that information. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and it's only becoming more robust by the day. I know just even within the past couple years, like, they have just gotten so much better and so much more detailed. So certainly check those out. Facebook Blueprint is a really good tool. They have tons of training on marketing on Facebook and Instagram. There's so many trainings. It's basically like an online university for Facebook. It's really cool. And then Social Rank, this is a new one that I came across that not only helps you find your most valuable followers, it's not about just accruing followers, it helps you find out what they like and what they're doing and how they engage with you. And then, as I mentioned, Canva, which is like the graphic design tool that makes you feel really, really cool. And so these are just a couple examples of this. So it makes designing really easy for everyone. You can easily resize images. So if you have a bunch of high-res images, you can go in there, upload your picture, and it's going to downsize that and size it. Say you want to do Facebook. It's going to downsize it and size it for Facebook. And let me see if I kind of just wanted to show you guys what Canva has to offer, because there's so many different things. Like, we've used it for like Island Hopper Songwriter Fest posts, and let's see here. But not only for social media. If you have events coming up, there's posters, there's flyers, there's all sorts of stuff. So let's see if I can get in here. So you can see here, it's really simple. Like, okay, I want to go create a Twitter post. You click this, and it offers you all of these like pre-made templates. And even if you're looking through these and you want to do like a motivational image or something, you could click this and you can change the whole background image. You can take that out, put in your own image of your business or a picture you took out on the water or at a show, and you can change all of this text as well. So it's totally customizable. They give you a lot of inspiration and examples, but just because there's oranges on this, you could change this whole image, change the text, do whatever you want. So it's really cool. There's just so many opportunities to use this for your business, not only social. Social is really helpful because, like you said, if you have huge images and you don't know what to do, or you don't have some sort of tool to resize your images for each platform, you can use this. So there's Twitter, Instagram. If you keep scrolling through, there's Facebook, but there's a bunch of cool stuff on here. So Canva, I would definitely recommend looking into. And it's free to use, so all these were free.
So we can fire our graphic designer right away.
Exactly. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's limited to an extent. There are, there's levels, so you can, all these tools are free, but there's different levels. So obviously, you start at the basic level and you can pay per month to upgrade and have, more capabilities or whatnot, but Canva's really cool. You can use it on your desktop. We download the app on our phone, so if we're like out taking pictures in the community, we can make a post right then and there. So it's just kind of fun to play around with as well. So that is Canva. And then just final thoughts. You know, we don't get to see you guys all the time, so I'm really happy you guys are here to spend some time with us today. But engage with us. Come talk to us afterwards. You can get my card. If you have any questions about anything that you guys are doing on social media or things that you're considering doing, let us know. Ask us questions. We're here to help. You know, that's the whole reason why we're here. So please utilize us. Call us. Email me. My contact information, my email's down there, but I'll give you my card and have my phone number. We're really here to help. And then another good source of information that we send out every month is called This Month in Social Media. It's an email that basically just has a bunch of information on kind of what's going on in the social media industry. What's new with Facebook? What new capabilities is Instagram coming out with? There's just a lot of really great information. It's just a way to stay up to date on this constantly changing social media realm that we're all trying to dabble in every day. So if you'd like to be added to that email list, if you're not already getting them, come see me afterwards. Give me your card or your email address, and I'd be happy to add you onto that list. There's some really good information in there. So with that said, does anybody have any questions?
Actually, I have at least one. Target marketing, like you're boosting a post.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really been able to figure out how to do that well.
So like if you posted something on your Facebook page, just boosting it through that button?
Yeah. In other words, expanding the exposure.
Yep. So the good thing about that is that when you have you done it yet? Like, have you actually promoted posts?
Yeah.
So yeah. So there's a lot of different rules. So and Facebook Blueprint, I'd highly recommend you look into that because there's probably a lot more detailed information they can provide you. But I know at least right now, as far as Facebook ads go, they don't like a lot of text on images. They have I think it's like a 20% ratio that they don't want any more than 20% text covering the image. So we've actually experienced that too. We've promoted and put some money behind some posts that had a bunch of text and information on it, and nobody really saw it. And we were like, that's weird, because we did the same thing with another post, and it did really well. And it was because there was too much text on there. And the thing with Facebook is their algorithms are constantly changing, like almost on a daily basis. So you kind of have to find the balance. It's test and learn, but I'd highly recommend not putting too much text, but they're all about visuals and their images and things like that when it comes to advertising, because they don't want everybody just putting like flyers with tons of information in front of people. It's very odd, and it's frustrating because we deal with the same thing, but I highly recommend using more image-focused posts than things with text on them.
Short videos with a very brief
Yeah.
description usually is where we get the highest engagement. But like when you go through and you kind of to select your target audience,
Yeah.
that's where I'm really struggling.
So I know that I think they get really detailed into that target audience. So maybe we can talk afterwards about maybe like the type of people that you're trying to target. Maybe we can come up with maybe like who maybe you should be targeting those ads to. But I know it can be really tricky because we deal with the same thing. So yeah, we'll have to talk after.
I just found out that Canva isn't Android ready yet.
It isn't?
Are you on iPhone?
Oops, yeah.
Okay. So I just tried to download it.
Really? Well, you definitely can get to it on your desktop.
Yeah, it said that.
Oh, man. Sorry, Android users. Get an iPhone. I'm just kidding.
There's one that I use for my Android that's called Snapseed.
Snapseed?
So you can try that one
Okay.
as well. It's more of an editing tool, and it allows you to write text on posts and that kind of thing. It
Okay.
doesn't have the preset templates.
Okay.
So Snapseed, S-E-E-D?
S-N-A-P-S-E-E.
Okay.
Snapseed.
Snapseed.
I use it for all
S-E-E-D.
my Instagram photos then. Great.
Any other questions?
Does anybody have a big social media win that you'd like to share? Oh, come on. We have a room full of winners here. Okay. Front row, you're getting gold stars. What do we got?
with the Cape Coral Art League, and I just use Facebook. I don't really use Twitter or any of the other platforms. But our win is that for our gallery shows or our workshops or classes, I build an event and I use a photo of either the artist's work or whatever, and I talk a little bit about the class. And then when it comes to boosting, I don't hit the boost button, I just hit the share button. And then it shares it again for free.
But that only shares with people who follow you.
And then, of course, it's tagged onto the Cape Coral Art League. So both everybody in the Cape Coral Art League and anybody in mine gets it.
Yeah, we do that, but I want to reach
More.
Yeah.
people who don't know about us.
And I'd definitely look into your insights too. So if it's Facebook, look into those insights, see who your audience is, and maybe get some ideas on what other people you may want to target, and maybe try doing that as well. But that's really interesting that you said that you only do Facebook, because I don't want people to feel like they have to do every single channel. You know, you have to find what works well for you, and if you don't have a lot of time to allocate to it, figure out where you need to be. Like you figured out that you have time for Facebook and you do it really well. If you have time to do a bunch of different things and try to experiment, more power to you, but also just take into consideration like what value that's bringing your business, because it does take time and money and resources to do it. So definitely just try to take a step back too and figure out what you can do really well first before you try to dabble in other areas as well.
Part of our target audience that we're trying to reach are tourists,
Mm-hmm.
people who come to Fort Myers Beach and are looking for something to do. So, and, you know, and they're staying in hotels.
Yeah.
We want them to come to the gallery. And that's part of what we're trying to do, is to figure out how to reach that audience. And that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. Yeah, I'll have to see, because I haven't been in the weeds of the social targeting and the Facebook ads, but I'll have to look into it. Yeah, Angela?
I just wanted to contribute a little bit, if possible. Do you guys have a website? Do you have analytics running on your website?
Yes.
You might be able to find out who from out of state is coming to look at your website, and then derive demographics for your boosted posts from who. Google Analytics should provide that info for you. Yeah, we do that with SBDAC, and I know that a lot of people come from Michigan, for example. They will come through our website quite often, and we'll see those click-throughs because people will plan ahead of time. So that's just a recommendation. Okay, well, it should provide the info from your website, yeah.
Great, thanks,
Sure.
Angela.
No problem.
All right. Yeah.
Is there any truth to like Hootsuite or whatever that you can post like Instagram and Facebook and everything at the same post?
Yep. So through that platform, you can say you filled out for Facebook, it will say repost to Twitter, Instagram. You can schedule it for all the different platforms. Yeah. All right.
Isn't always the best thing to do, but it's helpful. Just my one thing about scheduling posts in advance.
Oh, so you can't do it like at the moment?
I think you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, sorry, I hear Hootsuite and I think about helping to keep track of your content count.
I'm not in the future. I'm like reacting.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, you don't want to. It's good to be in advance so that you can kind of. We call it the cadence, so you get a real feel for what your social media cadence is across all of your different channels. Just don't try to schedule your posts so far out in advance that you've forgotten. Like our max, we don't even work our content calendar but 2 weeks at a time. And then whether it's Courtney or our social team at the agency, we do schedule posts in advance, but only a couple few, because God forbid you schedule something in advance and then another hurricane comes and you forget, and then Hootsuite pushes out your post, and then it makes you look like you're insensitive, or what are they thinking? Are they looking outside? Because nobody else is going to know that you scheduled that post weeks ago. So just got to remember what you're scheduling.
So it's just important to, also be relevant too. Join in conversations that are actively happening in real time as well. but, you know, it's a great tool if you don't have time to go in every day and schedule a post, or if you have content that you know needs to go out a couple days before an event or whatever it is. But definitely be conscious of that as well. All right, so if there's no other questions, I'm going to hand this over to LA.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right, perfect. Okay, how do I do this, Brian? All right. So yes, my name is Leslie Ann, and I've met most of you in the audience, but for those of you who don't know me, most people here also refer to me as LA. They just use my initials, so it's not two different people. It's just me, Leslie Ann or LA, whichever you prefer. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about the basics of media buying. It's not as fun and engaging as the social aspect of things, but for events and attractions and hotels in particular, the day-to-day traditional media buying is also important. So can I just get another show of hands as to who here actually does media buying? Not as big a group, but as to be expected. Okay, so I pretty much tried to make this as introductory as possible because I wasn't sure who did what, and I wanted it to be something that everybody could digest easily. So what is media buying, actually? It's simply the process of paying for media exposure for your business, and the goal is twofold here. One, you need to make sure you expose your target audience to the key messages on the platforms they frequent, and over there you can see the wheel that's showing you the different types of platforms that people typically are engaging with. You can have TV and radio, which we call broadcast, or of course there's magazine and newspapers, which is under the print umbrella. And then out of home would be things like billboards or digital banners that you see in Times Square, that sort of thing. And social media, which is always evolving, is also another big part of the media mix as well. The second thing we need to look at is making sure you push those messages to the people at the times they're most likely to be receptive to them. Because, you know, you're going through a mom is busy with her kids, dropping off kids at work. That may not be the best time to have a billboard right at the school gate or something like that. But if somebody's driving to work on the way to the office and they're listening to the radio, that's a better time to actually push your message to them. So timing and consumption patterns are also important. So in terms of the process, there are really 6 basic steps. First, you have to identify your audience. As you know, there's millions and millions of messages being pushed out on a daily basis, and sometimes people can take a step back and, whoa, that's like information overload. So unless you know your audience really well and you can target your message to them, you may not get the result that you're looking for. So it's very, very important to identify your audience. The second thing you need to do is make sure you set very clear objectives, because you can't be trying to do everything all at once. It's not as easy to succeed as when you actually break things down into snackable objectives that you can actually go after and try to reach. Crafting your message is also an important part of the equation, because even if you know your audience, if you don't do a message or develop a campaign or ad that will resonate with them, nobody's going to pay attention, nobody's going to take action. You also have to make sure that you match that audience with the platforms that are going to be speaking to them and allocate your budget effectively. The 5th step in the process is actually placing the buys with media outlets. And of course, the final measure is, you know, looking at evaluating your performance, because you're going to have to decide what worked and what didn't. And when planning your budgets for the coming year, you determine, you know, what was a good buy, what wasn't a good buy. So I'm going to go into each of the steps a little bit more deeper dive, so we can go into some of what you need to think about. So some of the questions you need to ask yourself when identifying your audience are, 1, who are you trying to reach? Yes, you know that you're trying to reach people who are coming to Florida, but the audience for an attraction that's cultural is going to be different to an audience for something that's more historical or fishing oriented or anything like that. So you're going to have to really dig down deep and ask some really serious questions. Part of the process of doing this involves assessing the demographic, psychographic, and geographic factors of your audience. And by that demographic, you know, how old are they? How much household income are they making? What's their educational background? Are they male or are they female? And then also looking at psychographic, which is really attributes, which are the interests and attitudes and lifestyle. Are these people active travelers? Do they like bus transportation over plane? You know, are they going to be lifestyle oriented in terms of up to date on the latest fashion trends, or is shopping going to be a big part of what they do? That sort of thing. And then looking and determining whether or not you're going to be focusing on a local market, which would be Lee County, or and then maybe state, and looking at national markets or international markets. Sometimes you have people coming. We get a lot of Germans in the destination. Are Germans going to be a part of your visitor profile? Those are some of the things you need to think about. And like I mentioned earlier, consumption patterns are going to be key. You know, what's the best time of the day or the week or the month or the year to target some people? For example, if you're looking at people if a hotel is looking at the wedding market, we know that people get engaged a lot during the holidays at Christmas and leading up to Valentine's. So possibly the best time to push your messages out if you have a limited budget is right after Valentine's Day, a couple of months leading from that, versus trying to get to them in October when nobody's really thinking about weddings. So those are some of the things you need to think about in terms of timing. And then, of course, where are you going to find them? Are these people watching TV? Are they listening to the radio? Are they scrolling through the internet, looking on Facebook and Instagram for inspiration? So those things help you to position yourself in terms of where you should be and when. And I just use this chart as an example in terms of looking at the different generations in terms of your target audience. And they kind of, we all want people, but we speak different languages based on our context and our backgrounds. So, you know, we have the boomers. The maturists are people who are over 72. But primarily, most of who you'll be targeting, I'm assuming, is going to be boomers, Generation X, and Generation Y, which we also call millennials. And basically, there's generalizations for each category, but of course, there are going to be exceptions. But you can use these generalizations to make some basic assumptions. So, you know, we can tell that boomers they're brought up in the Cold War. They are the Woodstock generation. They're more family-oriented, versus the Xers like me, who are early adopters to mobile technology. We grew up in the fall of the Berlin Wall. The millennial generation are all mostly social media focused in terms of what they're doing. They grew up on reality TV. And based on our backgrounds and our socialization, that really impacts, you know, the signature products that we're associating ourselves with and the communication media that will resonate most with those groups. So, for example, for boomers, television is their signature product. So you're going to assume if you're looking for the boomer audience, which are people aged 57 to 72, TV advertising perhaps the best way to reach that audience. There are going to be other ways, of course, but we're just saying what resonates most with that audience. And in the same way, if you're dealing with millennials, tablets and smartphones are their thing. So you need to look at mobile advertising and paying for digital banners and things that are going to be mobile or tablet focused to really reach the core of that market. So those are just some examples right there.
Yeah, I'll leave it for you. Courtney just brought to my attention, we never talked about what we're going to do with this presentation after the fact. We can make this deck available. I mean, we're getting email addresses. We can send it out to you, or we can post it on leevcb.com in the marketing section, and then send you a link and show you where it's at. So don't feel like you have to write everything down or take a picture of every single screen. You know, we'll give you access to this information after the fact if you want to go back and refer.
All right, so step number 3 is setting objectives. You need to say what you hope to gain from the paid media exposure. Is it going to be building brand awareness? Are you trying to advertise an upcoming event? Or is it simply trying to send more traffic to your website? Those things will help you to determine what you need to do in terms of the buys you're making. You also need to outline how you're going to measure success. Is it going to be total media impressions? Is it going to be cost efficiency? In the media buying business, we have different terms like cost per thousand, or cost per click, or it could be cost per engagement. And I went through and I actually added a glossary of terms at the back so you'll understand what those terms mean if you're not familiar with them. But these are some of the things you need to look at when you're allocating budgets year after year. Another measure of success could be simply the number of visitors that the ad drives to your landing page. And through Google Analytics, that's very easy of a measurement to achieve because they actually will give you that on a monthly or weekly basis. So another important component to the whole process is crafting your message. It's not just good enough to know who you're speaking with. You need to actually speak in a language that your audience will understand and something that will help them to recognize and relate to your message. So what's the best way to communicate with them when you know those details? The strongest messages usually have three main components. One, you need to tell them what's in it for them. What's the benefit to them for buying, engaging with your brand or your product or your event or your attraction or whatever it is. What differentiates you from the rest of the competition? And you need to have a strong call to action at the end. So if this is a banner ad, it needs to say, for more information, go to our website, or come into the office today for more details, or something like that. Note that creative formats can include different combinations of audio, visuals, and text. Humor, where applicable, helps in recalls, so try to use that if you can and do it tastefully. And high-impact graphics always helps as well, especially in this world where, technology focused. And I tried to think of an example that included all three elements of the advertising message. And I don't believe I'm actually going to say this. It's not necessarily the most award-winning campaign, but I think it's an effective ad because it uses all these three components. Who's listened to the Fachila Kia ads of Cape Coral? Think about it. He says, what's in it for you? You're either going to be winning a vacation, or you're winning a house or a cruise or a TV or something. He says, he tells you what to do. He says, coming to the dealership today to rent or lease. And, he says what makes it different. Everything about it's going to be huge. So those are some of the things to think about in terms of the three components of an effective ad. People remember it, and you're actually telling them all those things in a very succinct way. So in terms of media platform selection, in the media buying business, there are a couple of terms that people normally use, or measurements that you use. Reach is the first one that people think about. Reach is actually the total number of people that are exposed to your ad, and this is a unique number of people that are exposed to your ad. And frequency refers to the number of times an ad is delivered to them. So the combination of reach and frequency is usually what people try to attain. Now, TV is the best way of achieving reach, but it's also the most expensive. So the frequency on that channel is not going to be as attainable as it may be for radio. So those are some of the considerations you have to think about. Then you also have to think about which one aligns best with your audience profiles and does so in a cost-effective manner. So, like, we have all these different magazine or print options that we can think about. Say Alice Nat, the Mount House, is thinking about group tours. Perhaps she needs to look at publications like Group Tour Magazine or Reunions Magazine, because that's the audience that's going to be looking for those type of activities when they get here. Or Yvonne, you're looking at a cultural thing, maybe it was the Cultural Traveler, one of those publications. Or Captain Brian, you do a lot of fishing and boating, maybe some of what you need to look at, other than your great social media platforms that you already use, could be things like Florida Sportsman. So you have to vary the channels based on what your audience will connect with. And then the other thing you need to think about is a combination of outlets that would provide the best media mix. It's not advisable to be just on one channel, because I think it's always better to have a good mix. But of course, budget is going to dictate what you can or cannot do, and it's just bearing those things in mind. So here are some general tips for placing media buys. First, you really have to conduct some very thorough research. If you're not familiar with the process, or you're not familiar with doing this, I think starting with asking your media house, the radio station or the TV station or the publication for a media kit is important. Ensure that you're getting verifiable information and ask that the numbers were updated recently. If it's anything over a year, don't even look at it. Tell them you need to send me more updated figures. And also look at what your competitors are doing. Thankfully, the internet can help you in terms of assessing some other things, or you can be doing marketing intelligence through your employees may come in and tell you they saw a great ad here or there based on their travels. Think about those things and factor that in when you're making your own decisions. Also, these things media buying can get expensive, and salespeople will be pushing everything that they can on you. So I think before you go into any decision-making process, make up your mind in terms of what's your base rate, know what you can afford to spend, and don't go over. The other thing that I would ask you to do as well is ensure when you're going to any negotiation that the rates that they're quoting you are net, not gross. If you're not working through an advertising agency and you're booking direct, typically the gross, if they're giving you gross rates, that should attract a discount, around 15%. It may vary a little bit, but because they're not having to pay agency commissions, you can avoid paying that excess and just ask. So make sure the rates are net, not gross. An example of a media kit is here, and I just wanted to include this. This is really something that was sent to us by a company called Abrams Media. They represent 15 million monthly uniques, comprised of high-income households that average over $150,000 per household, and they have strong affinity for affluent travel. Now, if we just read that, here, we pitched every day on a bunch of publications. If we only read that, we'd say, hey, that sounds like a good market for us. But it goes down further to tell us that their audience loves and lives geek culture, comic book movies, space exploration, and emerging technologies. And then we start saying, maybe that's not such a good fit. So read everything carefully so you know what you're getting before you get in the door. And I like this one because it actually breaks things down by male and female. It tells you about desktop traffic versus mobile traffic, so that will help you to make decisions as to whether you're doing more printed stuff or digital online stuff. Then it also gives you some of their social media following numbers, so you can assess the total reach overall that the company has. Continuing with tips, negotiation is also key. You're going to something, you have your own objectives that you set forward. The advertising sales rep knows what they want to accomplish on a monthly basis because they're thinking commission, commission, commission. You have to find a happy medium, and that's where the negotiation comes into play. Volume gives you clout, so the more business you can provide to a media outlet, the higher your bargaining power will be. So if you're going in, rather than going in to say, I'm going to buy one ad in this newspaper today and it's going to cost me $2,000, if you commit to 3 or 4, you'll get a discounted rate on that. So think about those things when you're actually trying to negotiate with your partners. And I think it's also important to build relationships. They're really great skills, building relationships with people so that you can make sure you're getting the biggest bang for your buck. And also the ability to find deals and extras. Ask for value additions. It's something that they expect, but they're not going to offer it to you unless you ask. So I'm thinking like, you're buying a print ad in a newspaper. A lot of them have online versions as well. Online versions should be the add-on to the print buy. For example, with Island Hopper Festival, we will replace buys with Destination Magazines, which is one that's in hotels that possibly you may want to look at because that's the audience you're trying to reach. We bought buys in Daytona Beach, in Key West, and on the North Coast, but we got local placements as well as a value added. So we didn't pay for here. So those are some of the things you can think about when you're actually going into your negotiations with the different media outlets. Also be creative. Look for ways to create customized messages, vary your formats, and fine-tune your timing strategies. Sometimes, as Courtney mentioned, it's a test and learn. You may try something today and it doesn't work. You try something else tomorrow and whoa, that just gives you so much more of a return. So fine-tune it until you get it right and you know what's the best timing for you. And find organic ways to integrate into programs. So for example, the radio is one area where you can have a little bit more flexibility. You can pay for a package of radio ads, but ask for an on-air interview. There are some companies that will do that, some won't, but airtime for an interview is something that you don't have to necessarily pay for. It may come with a package, or see if you can incorporate some DJ mentions. DJs are some of the local ambassadors. They're very strong influencers in their local communities. And if you can get them to be a proponent for your brand or your product, that's a great deal. So sometimes, you can figure out how, unique ways to do that. So just a couple of quick best practices to wrap this up. And I'm only going to be doing it for print and radio, because I know TV is expensive and I don't believe there's a lot of that going to be happening in this room. So create compelling headlines and use strong visuals. That's key. People respond. People are usually very visual, and the picture is going to get them to stop, and the headline is going to make them think. Know how much text is right for your audience. Some may want a little bit more than others. And place your ads where they make the most sense. So typically, if you're going to be talking about an event, you would want to be in the entertainment section of the paper, not necessarily the news section or the business section. And those are some of the things you need to think about when you are buying. You can also request preferred positioning, which may cost a little bit more extra, but studies have shown, for example, how do I get the clicker on this? That the right-hand side of the page is usually better. And above the fold, where I have that other arrow, they're saying is usually the most ideal position. In addition to that, sections like the inside front cover next to the table of contents page or the outside back cover are some of the preferred positions normally in the print and magazine world. In terms of best practices for radio, include drive times in your package. A lot of the publications may tell you that they're going to give you run of the press type of thing, or drive times is when people are actually in their cars going to work or coming from work, and radio has something called day parts, which attract premium rates depending on what time of day. You can look into that, but whatever you do, you may have some ads that come in the night or at lunchtime. Make sure that drive times are included in your package. Aim for frequency as well. The more repetition of a message you have, the better the instances of recall. And I learned that basically, at least on a weekly basis, minimum of 12 to 15 spots. Averaging 3 a day if necessary, Monday through Friday. Saturdays tend to be a little bit more flexible in terms of the day part, so you may get different options there. You don't have to stick to the actual required day parts on Saturdays and Sundays. So think about those things when you're buying. Ask for bonus spots. People will offer that. As I said, they're not going to just offer it to you unless you ask. So make sure you ask about those things. And treat online streaming with regular stations as value added. Don't let them con you into paying any extra for things like that. Mix produce spots with local endorsements. So sometimes, like I said, if a DJ is, invite them to your show and they'll come on and, oh yeah, I went last year and this was great. That alone is an endorsement that could give you a lot more clout than perhaps 10 ads, because people believe other people more than they'll believe you. And request interviews where applicable or where possible. I think those things help.
Can I just ask one thing on that? When it comes to radio, it's all based on inventory at the station. So in other words, if you plan your radio schedule far enough in advance, when the radio station for that particular amount of time has a lot of inventory, you can negotiate a better rate. If all of a sudden today is Monday and you need to be on the air on Wednesday, you're going to pay a much higher rate. The other thing is, during an election year, you know that the politicians have TV, radio, everything. They're gobbling up all of the inventory. For you to break in at that particular point of time, you're going to pay through the roof for it. Also during the Christmas holiday as well, when all the retailers are promoting. You might have an event that's holiday related, let's say, but know that you're going up against the retailers at those radio stations for the same inventory, therefore you're going to pay higher. So point being is that the further in advance you plan, the better rates that radio station is more likely to give you based on the inventory available at the time of booking.
Thanks, Brian. And one thing I forgot to say for print, one of the key things you need to remember is confirm, confirm, confirm. Double and triple check all your rates and dates and specs. with each publication you're working with, it can get confusing. Thankfully, we have the agency to help us manage all that, and Elizabeth can attest to the fact that she has a spreadsheet to keep us all on track, and she tells us a month ahead of time, 2 months ahead of time, this is coming up. But if you're doing it on your own, it can get a little overwhelming. So be sure you do that so you don't run into any unforeseen problems. And the final step in the process is measuring and evaluating your performance. It's important to see what works and what doesn't work so that you know you're allocating your budget the most effectively. So for an example, if you're advertising using a website banner, and there are a few simple ways to determine what to measure. Once the visitor clicks on the ad, you can measure how many click-throughs you get to your website. You can think about the number of impressions on your ad. You can look to see what are the number of unique visitors on your website over, on a daily or weekly basis derived from that specific outlet. And you can achieve that by getting, what do you call it again, Elizabeth? Tracking codes on your ads. So that's something you need to set up for each ad, so you can actually check which media campaign is actually driving ads to your site. You can also look at the number of visitors that come to your landing page and request information or download PDFs, and that's another way you can count. So these are just a couple of examples of ways you can track the efficiency of what you're doing. And I'll just hand over to Brian, who's going to talk about geofencing. Oh, do you have any questions? Yes, Mike.
So when the publications send their media kits and they have all those great numbers, is there a way we can check to see if the numbers are inflated, or if they're accurate or not?
One of the things that we determine as to whether or not media is you can have confidence in the numbers is to find out and check and see if they're actually audited.
Okay.
If they're audited, that information should be part of that media kit, and that means that they're not falsifying any of that information. You'd like to think that they're not, but anybody can stretch and manipulate the numbers. But if it's an audited media outlet, you can pretty much depend on the information that they're giving.
Thank
Another thing you can use, Mike, is this. We have access to something called Cision, which is we use through our PR agency, and they actually have to report in figures to them. And so we can double check from a third-party perspective in terms of whether or not these impressions are really, or circulation figures are really what they claim they are.
Smaller media, smaller publications, or community newspapers, things like that aren't going to be audited by an independent. But if it's in your own community and you're seeing it out there and you know the different distribution points, that's one thing. You use your best judgment. But if you're talking about a higher dollar media buy and you just can't believe what they're telling you, there are definitely ways.
Thank you.
And if it's a matter of actually paying for like social media influencers to come, you can ask them to send you Google Analytics of their website and their channels, so you can actually get screenshots of that and check on that way. Any other questions?
I think it's important to mention that no matter if you have $2,000, $20,000, or $2 million to spend on media, everything, these basics that LA described to you today apply to any budget level. Any budget level. We go through this. Yes, we have help because we're trying to do a lot to promote the entire destination. But between our staff and our media buying team at MMGY, they vet everything. They look at all the numbers. They look at to make sure that they're of course audited and that everything is verifiable. And again, it's developing relationships with these media reps. Because if you have a relationship with somebody, in the end, they'll probably be willing to give you more than if you're just calling in cold. So, but you got to start somewhere, right? So anyway, try to apply these to your media campaigns, no matter how big or how small your budgets might be.
Right, over to you.
Good. Let me get it. Right. So when we were putting this together, I was on the fence, see what I did there? About whether or not we wanted to include this. That was terrible. But we wanted to because this is a little bit outside of the box, and we thought, well, if there are any events or festivals, funding recipients from our events program, this would be something cool for them to implement. But I'm sure by the end of this presentation, we could come up with some other creative ways to use geofencing. So before I dive right into it, does anybody here know what geofencing is? All right, 3 people. All right.
I just learned last week. I didn't know.
Okay, you looked it up before you came. Have you used it or you just know about it?
I know about it, I never used it.
Okay, somebody in the back. Oh, Mary, have you used it or you just know about it?
No, I've used it, yeah.
Have?
Yeah, so we've used it, we started using it actually around the airport. So,
when at the end, I'm going to ask, because I've got a couple of examples of how the VCB has used it, but
Yeah.
I'd like to hear yours and see if you'd be willing to share that with the group as well.
Yeah.
All right. So what is geofencing? Well, it's a technology that allows brands or your business to target and engage and influence what we call heads-down consumers on their mobile devices, because everybody is on their phones. There's probably people in this room right now sneaking looks at their phones while I'm up here talking. So anyway, the point is everybody is carrying a device. So as marketers, this is relatively new, but we want to be able to communicate our messaging to those people where they are, and most of us are on our phones. So what I'm about to describe to you is a little big brother. It is a little creepy, right, Donna? We were talking about this today, but big data is out there. The tools are available to us, and other people are going to use it regardless of whether or not we take advantage of it or not. Bottom line, it is what it is, so let's take advantage of it if it makes sense. So location data provides advertisers, you, us, with consumer behavior, visitation patterns, insights, and other sorts of analysis surrounding a specific audience interests and routines. Right? That basically means that because you're carrying around your phone and you're on your phone constantly, as advertisers, we can know a lot more about you than you probably realize that we know about you. Okay? And so we're going to use that information to our advantage. Yes, a lot of what you do on your phones is private, but a lot of it's not. Just saying. So, this is primarily because it's geofencing. Think about what the word means. It's geography-based, the geo. And fencing means I could set a boundary around a particular location. Right now, down to the smallest boundary to 15 square meters, and up from there. We can use your location derived from the GPS on your device and learn about your daily activity and your behavior. Now just think about that for a second. Next time you get on your phone, who's watching? Who knows? Well, nobody's technically watching you, but the service providers, everybody is learning about who you are and what your habits are and where you are and when you're there and making that information available to us as marketers, right? So it's based on some of those things LA talked about, your lifestyle, your behavior, your interests, your patterns, all those things that go into, for an advertiser, reaching you with the right message at the right time, in the right place, while your head is down looking at your phone. So, I won't go through all of this, but just to give you an idea of the power of location-based data. So, from your location, we know who your mobile carrier is. We know the type of type of device you have. We know the signal type that you're using. We know the operating system that you're using. Because you're making transactions on your phone, we can learn about your purchase history. We know if you're male or female. We could start to put together your educational background and your income and your age. All these things, we start to profile you just based on your normal usage of your phones, where you are, and how you're using them. So, yes, geofencing, mainly geography-based, but also we can start to segment within that geography and based on your coordinates. And if you're a sports fan, as an example, and I'm trying to reach a sports fan in a certain area, I can segment out all of the people based on profiling you that are sports fans and not communicate with the rest of the people in that area. Does that make sense? So yes, we can segment the audience. Now, if you're in 15 square meters, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because how many people are going to be in there in that same area with you at that particular time? But we have an activation in Chicago coming up this fall. It's an out-of-home. Anybody remember what out-of-home is? One, good. See, front row, gold star. All right. So we have an out-of-home activation. That's actually a pretty cool interactive, using some interactive technology, some facial recognition. Anyway, we would depend on people walking by and seeing it, or we will geofence a 5-block area around it and encourage people to stop by and check it out, right, because they're in the vicinity. So if you're in 15 square meters, there might be 3 people. It doesn't necessarily make sense to segment that audience. But if you're looking at a 5-block area in Chicago, there's going to be a lot more than 3 people there. You know, we can start to determine, do we want to segment these people, or do we just want to try to hit every single person within that 5-block area? So I'm going to give you some examples of 2 geofencing campaigns that the VCB have used. The first one is for meetings. How many of you work the trades? You work with tour operators, you work with meeting planners, you go to consumer shows, things like that. No? Yes? Okay. So we do too, as we represent the destination. So 2 conferences. We wanted to promote the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel to meeting planners at IMEX and at the Destination Showcase. So there's a company called SITO, S-I-T-O, that specializes in consumer behavior and location sciences. This is the company that we lovingly refer to as Big Brother, right? This is where we get all of that cool information. They aggregate all of this stuff for us through their platform and through their technology. So SITO built custom audience segments of IMEX and Destination Showcase attendees. We captured the event the device ID, rather, of those users at both conferences. They stored the data for us, and then they even allowed us to target them after the fact. So, you go to an event, we know you're there, we communicate, market to you while you're at the event, maybe to encourage you to come by our booth. You'll see that example in a second. But then, because we know about your specific ID, we know you were in the event, SITO stores it for us, and we can actually follow up back to your device after the fact. You don't even need to be in the geofence area. We can market to you after the fact. Pretty cool. So we actually geofence the convention centers, right? Convention centers can get pretty large. We literally drew a line around the convention center because that's where all the action was taking place during convention hours to reach all those attendees that were there. We took it one step further and also geofenced the hotels, right, in the proximity to the convention centers because, hey, they got to stay somewhere, and they're not going to stay far from the main convention center, so not only did we geofence the convention center, but all the hotels, so we made sure that our target audience, that we were reaching them, whether they were in their downtime at their hotel or if they were actually active as part of the conference in the convention center. And then, of course, the retargeting. We continued the communication among those attendees who we served an initial ad to for increased exposure to build brand awareness and momentum. All right. So we reached the planners at the conference to promote awareness of our booth. Stop by and see us at booth whatever it is, 1502. And then retargeted those attendees after the fact, post-convention messages. We're glad to see you at IMEX. Please don't hesitate to contact us with any follow-up questions you might have about the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel, right? Okay, so here's a couple of the pieces of creative. When it ran, October 18th to the 21st, And then again with the follow-up, November 7th, all the way through January 7th. So, 2.7 million ad views, 5,500 inquiries, which means they interacted with the ad. Cost per inquiry, $3.64. So, you see, on the device, these are, by the way, in-app messages. So you're on your phone, maybe the conference has an app, maybe you're on your calendar, which is an app, maybe you're checking sports scores on ESPN, which is an app. We can also serve the ad up if it's a web-enabled device. Of course, everybody is, so if you're surfing certain websites, but mainly the messaging comes through apps. So if you're not using your phone, you're not using an app, our ad's not going to reach you, but you can see that everybody, obviously in this case, was with 2.7 million ad views. 5,500, just under 5,500 people interacted with us at a cost per inquiry of $3.64. So, for those of you that are quick at math, you can see that this technology is not cheap yet. Because $3.64 times 5,499 comes out to what? $18,000. So there you go. So that's what that costs. That's just for the IMEX meeting. And that was based on, you know, I think the next example is even bigger, to be honest with you. So the second one's Destination Showcase. That's about the same. Meet us at the beach, kiosk number 105. Right? You see the big square ad there, and then the smaller one, smaller banner type ad. 3.1 million ad views, just under 5,000 inquiries at a cost per inquiry of $3.87. So while the technology is not cheap, it does make you very, very competitive, especially when we're talking trades. I mean, we can go to this show, spend the money for travel, for staff, for food, for registration, for hotel, for flight, and walk out of there with one good lead that would far pay for, and then some, make it worth our while for every investment we made. So we're looking always for ways to give ourselves an edge, and I would like to tell you this is definitely a way that can give you an edge over your competitors, but because it's still relatively new technology, anything that's new media does cost a little bit more. And so you do have to pay for it. But it's really cool. So, Key West, this is the one I'm most excited about. As all of you know, we just closed our 4th annual Island Hopper Songwriter Festival. Quick story, we weren't even sure if we were going to run the festival this year because of Hurricane Irma. We reached out to our lodging partners, we talked to our host venues, we talked to iHeartMedia and to Cat Country and to BMI, and overwhelmingly everybody said yes. Music is uplifting, music will unite us. Let's run the festival at a time when we need the music the most. Because the message, just as a side note here, is if we're running a 10-day music festival, then our destination must be in pretty good shape, and we didn't get devastated like some of the other areas of Florida. So it was difficult. We're sensitive to our friends down in Bonita. There are still a lot of families that are displaced, still have a couple feet of water in their homes. You know, you can drive up and down McGregor. You can see a lot of the big trees, especially over by Edison and Ford, have been knocked down. We got to keep moving forward. And as far as the tourism industry goes, as far as visitation goes, we need to put out the message that we're open for business. So that was my side note, just letting you know the idea behind why we kept our 4th annual Island Hopper Songwriters Fest on track. We learned a lot from Key West. They've been doing the same thing for over 20 years. And we've sponsored that event because theirs happens before ours. And so since they have a lot of visitors coming to town to enjoy the music, to see the singer-songwriters, we geofenced Duval Street in Key West with our messages. So we wanted to maximize awareness of our Songwriter Festival at their Songwriter Festival.
targeting their audience, which is cool because they spent a lot of money to get that audience to that event, and hey, now all we have to do is draw a circle around them and tell them about our event, right? Pretty cool. So obviously we want to drive attendance to our event. September and early October is a need period for us, as all of you know, and that's why it's so important. We use this event to help fill in that need period. So we target attendees at the festival using, again, CEDO's location accuracy. Then we retarget their devices later in the summer as we approach closer to our event with a message to remind them that ours is right around the corner. Then what we do is we mirror that audience and try to put marketing out that matches the people going to these type of events to sort of grow our audience, and then continue to connect with them with some really cool creative to increase attendance, which I would love to share with you today, but we don't have all of those numbers yet, but we will. So we built custom geofences to reach audiences in specific geographic locations. Of course, most of it was right around where all the hotels and the bars are, where all the singer-songwriters were performing, targeting music fans that have the mindset, right, at the Key West Songwriter Fest, and make them aware of ours because it's very, very similar. Of course, Tam, she's not here today. Our executive director likes to refer to us as as very similar to Key West, except we have beaches. If you've been to Key West, their beach is like maybe as big as this room, right? Okay, so I think the key with this is the retargeting. You know, you get them initially at a time because you know where they are, you know who they are, and you're sending them those messages. They're on their phones, they're using their apps, they're seeing the message about an upcoming songwriter festival, and maybe you get some interest there from them. But then I think the magic happens when you retarget and you continue to market to them, again, because CEDO stores that information as you get closer to your event, which is really cool. Hopefully they make plans to attend. So this ran recently during the Key West event, May 10th through the 14th. And then we followed up beginning August 1st all the way through the last day of Island Hopper on October 1st. 762,000 ad views, only 453 inquiries, much higher cost per inquiry of $11.04. Yeah, interacting with our ads, with our messages, clicking through. So, not as good result as we had with the meetings.
But much less expensive than the other two.
Correct. If you do the math there, you can see, right, how that shakes out. Okay, that's all I had. Next thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to bring Josh up, and he's going to talk a little bit about website and how to engage with us and make sure that you guys have all of those boxes checked. But I wanted to also go back to Mary and see how your geofencing campaign worked itself out. You said you were geofencing the airport.
Airport, downtown Fort Myers, and then south in that area. Because we do, unless you don't know, we have the two locations, one in Tin City and Naples, and then the marina here in downtown. And we literally I finally got to do this, and so we did it for a 2-week period, not consistently, but we picked our days, and we were testing it out because I really want to do it for real, probably around Thanksgiving. And so either way, we didn't have the great success that I was hoping because everybody was watching the storm. But either way, we got a ton of impressions, and but our conversion rate wasn't as great as I was hoping. But it was our first time, and we were really happy with that just being our first time because we felt like we had a good hold on who we were reaching and how we were targeting them. And the retarget was what was killer because our retarget is where we actually had our conversion. So if they clicked through, looked at our stuff, and they were like, oh, you've got the sightseeing or the sunset cruise or the boat rental or whatever, and they didn't actually book a ticket, we would then, 24 to 48 hours, retarget them and give them an aggressive coupon campaign. And that's when we saw the ticket sale conversions. So it worked. It just didn't work as well as we wanted to. But it's timing, and it's our first time, so we're not upset about it, but we're definitely going to be, we're excited about it. So, yeah.
I think as the technology, as with anything, it's going to become more and more refined. I think the price is going to go down, and I think it's going to become more and more mainstream. But again, this is not going to make sense for every business. Like I was trying to before I got up here to make a connection between a hotelier that might want to use some geofencing, because Donna's here from Sundial, and she said that I was interested in this. Well, if you had a competitor outside of our destination, of course, because you don't compete with anybody in destination. Seriously, let's say over in Fort Lauderdale or in another sun and sand destination in the state. I suppose you could fence that property, and there's nothing they can do about it, so that you get your message to all the guests that stayed at XYZ Hotel and say, next time, come to Southwest Florida, stay at the Sundial, here's a 15% promo code or something, just to kind of get people thinking, well, at least you're hitting them while they're at a particular resort that you deem as a competitor, and then you can reach back out to those people at a later date. We've toyed around rolling this out in co-op, right, Elizabeth? But before we did that, we wanted to learn more about it and make sure that it would be cost-effective and that it would perform. So we've got some more geofencing things coming up that just the VCB is going to be working on, right, moving forward.
And we do have that one co-op, which we're geofencing beach destinations all around the state, so that is available.
Yeah, cool.
For hotels and attractions.
Cool.
I just want to mention, like, you guys keep repeating, like, know who your audience is, because the best performing one that we did was the airport. And I know we all complain about how long we wait for our bags. That is killer. It's killer because they're all sitting there waiting for their bags, and we're hitting.
What's everybody doing other than watching that carousel?
And they're on their phones.
On their phones.
And I'm telling you, it was killer. So
what were we toying with Elizabeth? International arrival terminals?
Exactly right, in Orlando, Miami.
Because our research and our contractors in the UK and Germany and Scandinavia, they do a lot of research ahead of time, but some of those folks don't even have a place to stay when they get here. And it blows my mind, but hey, if we can... If this is the international market, I think most of them were from Scandinavia, right? They were making decisions like on the fly. I'm like, man, what a way to go. I would love to do that. I'd be afraid I'd get somewhere and then I'd have nowhere to stay. I'd be sleeping in a rental car or something. But yeah, so if we can hit them at the international arrival terminal and fence that and hit them with messaging about the destination or eventually co-op about different properties, hey. It gives us an advantage because we are hitting them first where they are on their phone when they need it. So as we develop more and more concepts behind geofencing, and when we're ready to roll them out in a bigger way with co-op, we'll let you know. But those are the geofence basics. And well, again, we'll be around after if you have any particular questions. All right, so I'm going to bring Josh up and let him talk to you about our industry website portal.
Hi everybody, how are you guys? One more session. One more. We told you we were only going to keep you here till 4:30. It's now 4:36 and your minds are probably like, are you kidding? So what I want to do is I want to take a picture of you guys because we're going to put out our industry portal, our industry Facebook page. I want you to look live.
Got to supply coffee next time.
I know, I was going to say, I'm about to be busted right now.
I like your shirt when you're over there. It looks like a camo shirt.
You guys should stand over there.
Got leaves on it. And...
How do I turn this on? I'm a roamer. Here you go.
That's it. There we go.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? So when you guys came in, there were two packets over there, and I just kind of want to get a good survey of the audience. How many of you have a current business, event, or deal listing on our website? Okay. So a good majority. Pretty sure we do. Okay, an event, okay. So there's two packets over there. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through the specific steps on how to create a listing. I'm going to kind of more talk about ways that listings can benefit you and kind of best practices. So there are those handouts over there. Feel free to take them, and they're also available on leadvcb.com. So I'll go into that in a little bit.
Oh, very nice.
So I call this the Fast Five because it's going to be fast, and I'm going to get you guys home to your families for dinner. First, we're going to talk about an introduction to the business listing. We're going to go into kind of, I like to call it the industry portal slang. I work with a lot of you guys, and I talk to you a lot on the phone and over email, and there's just some terminology in there that you might not know, and quite honestly, I didn't even know before I was working in Umbraco. And Umbraco is our content management system, or the back end of the website. We're going to talk a little bit about deal and event listing opportunities. So if you are in a hotel, you're not an attraction, but you're an event, this can benefit you. And we're going to talk about optimal listing recommendations. And then last but not least, we're going to go and really quickly talk about Lonely Planet because we're actually in an edit. So for those of you who are not familiar, if you're an attraction or a hotel partner, you can be in this book for free. We print how many, Brian, a year?
I don't know, 150, 200,000.
And we get rid of them all. So if you want to be in here, it's actually free, and that's what I love about this portion of it. Everything I'm going to talk to you about is free $99. It's our favorite price because nothing is free anymore, but this is because we're here to help you guys, okay? So let's dive in. A couple of questions I want you guys to ask yourselves. Do you have an active listing on our website? So we know in our industry, high turnover. That's just the nature of hospitality. You might have somebody working on that listing. Last year, they have since then left. It has fallen off your radar because, quite honestly, this isn't going to be your top priority. So that's always important. Is it active? Are you updating it every 6, 7 months? When's the last time you updated it? So if you do have one and you think it's active, is your website active on it? Do you have the right contact information, the right contact name? Do you post deals or events on a regular basis? I know Donna with Sundial, she's fantastic about getting those deals posted. So if you have a Florida resident rate and it's on your website, you can put it on our website for free. And there's going to be some people that you might attract who aren't on your website, who come to ours first. On average, people visit about 38 websites before they actually make a decision to book. So it's really important that you're taking advantage of this service because we could be one of the 38 websites that they're looking at. And last but not least, what challenges do you experience when you're working with an industry portal? I know everybody in here that I have had a conversation with about our back end has challenges. It's new, a lot of people have experience in WordPress. You're not alone. This is the first content management system I've worked in, and I have challenges. And I'm here to help you guys, and that's it. So if we just have that good conversation about it, I'll find out what's going on, and I'll fix it for you. So if you log in, so again, we're skipping all those steps on how to log in because that's going to be in those packets over there. We can talk about that after the presentation. If you log in, this is what the back end is going to look like. So you can see that there's a lot of different tabs. You have some pictures going on. There's gallery. There's information and stuff to put in your social media. So I just wanted you to visually see what the back end looks like because we're going to talk more so from the consumer point of view. So we're going to look at the front end. So has everyone here been to our website? It's okay if you haven't. You don't have to tell me. But if you haven't, this is what it looks like. And now I'm going to walk you through as if I'm the consumer. So we come to this website. We go, oh, I love Fort Myers. I used to go there when I was young with my parents. I'm going to take my family there. We know we're staying in Fort Myers, so we know. Now we're just kind of like thinking about things to do. So we're going to kind of explore the plan your trip area and then this column. These 3, places to eat, things to do, where to stay, those are all areas where business listings live. So let's say we click on things to do. If you look over there, a window is going to appear, and it's going to essentially be a couple or 2 columns with listings. Now, you can narrow your search, but for the sake of this, I just went ahead and I just clicked things to do, and now these are random listings. All right, you know what? I didn't know they had ice hockey in Florida. I'm into it. I want to learn more about the Florida Everblades. You look here, this is what the front end of the listing looks like. So I just showed you the back end in the previous slide with all those tabs. This is how it's going to look on the front end to the consumer. So, industry portal slang. There's 2 that, quite honestly, a lot of people get confused. We have pod, which is going to be right over there, and then we have hero. Your pod, I personally think, is one of the most important pictures. Think of our website and our listing section as the market. You have so much competitors. I mean, the variety here, looking at the ice hockey to the day safari to learning about what you can do with Salty Sands Waterfront Adventures. make that picture really good. That's supposed to be your best picture, okay? You want it to best represent your brand, and I don't have an answer for what that is because you guys know that. So make sure your pod image is your best image because you want it to draw people's attention because all that you're giving them is your website, your address, and your name. So how can you make that connection and then make them click through to your listing? Hero, which is this one, is just going to be like your profile picture. So just think of it like a Facebook profile picture. Make it a really awesome image as well, but pod is super important. So pod in the back end, you can see under the pod content tab, and it's going to be there, and that's where you're going to upload it. And then on this side, looks almost the same, so the only difference really is you're in different tabs, and they're called different things. So again, if you take anything from that little spiel, pod's important. So events. Do we have events represented in here? Okay, cool. Hi, Angela. So you don't have to be, like I said, you don't have to be a hotel. You don't have to be an attraction. Events are technically an attraction. To have a listing. So, you go ahead. It's a little bit different. It's a little more simple. So if you're on the event side, these listings in the back end are actually a lot more user-friendly, and it's a little bit, like I said, a little more simple. They have their own place on the website. So right up there. So when you click there, you can select your dates, and you can kind of get a vibe for the events that are going on when you're going to be here in destination. And the only other really thing that's different is there's going to be kind of like this date section right there. So if you're a reoccurring event, you can have a listing like art walk or music walk, multi-day in this case, or it could just be a single day. Deal listing opportunities. So this is when I brought up Sundial. They're really good about putting your deals on a website, and like I said, people visit a lot of websites, and everyone's looking for the deal. I mean, we came out of the recession in 07, and we're still in the deal mindset. We have more disposable income, but we still want value. So, again, they have their own portion on the website. The dates, so you can have, you can really set a deal up for a whole year. So if you offer a Florida resident rate, you go in there, plug it in for 2018 to 2019, and as long as nothing changes on that deal, you don't really have to go back in there and worry about updating it and stuff like that. Okay, optimal listing recommendations. I'm going to use this one as an example again. There's a couple things here that I really like that I want to bring up to you guys because you can do as little as you want with these listings, or you can really take advantage of them. So in this case, you can see there's kind of a lot going on. The Book Now button. If you don't provide a booking link in the back end, that button won't be there. It'll just be website and email. And you can tell that that button is orange, and that button is orange because our wonderful agency, MMGY, has done so much research behind, and GetSmart as well, has done so much research behind what attracts people to click. So we have the call to action of Book Now, so that's pretty good. But the orange, those orange colors are making people want to click. And it's strange because we all do things that we don't even notice or we don't even recognize, but orange is a great color to use. The gallery section. So you only have to put in 2 pictures, but if you're a hotel and you have a really awesome pod image, because that's what I told you guys, and you have a really good hero image, but you're only really showing 2 aspects. You can upload like 30 or 40 pictures into the gallery, not that you have to, but you can really encompass all that your property has to offer. So you can show a couple enjoying a glass of wine on a sunset, or you could show kids running on the beach with their parents in the background going, this isn't vacation. And you can show all that in the gallery section. So it's really important to include those images. And on deal listings in particular, your title needs to say who and what. So one of the things that I come across often with deal listings is it'll say, for example, 20% off. And I know that that 20% off is at X property, but the consumer has no idea. And so when they're looking at those columns, that pod list, and it just says 20% off and it's a picture of a sunset, there's just not the connection. And so that's why this one says Sundial Beach Resort and Spa, 4th night free. So you can see this beautiful picture of shells. You know it's a resort, you know they have a spa, and you know it's a 4th night free. So just the who and the what with the title is really important. Okay, and then one of the last couple of things that I always recommend is you're actually able to put in video. So video. Whoops, this is on still. Video is the new picture times 100. So if you're able to, if you have any promo videos of your property, or if you have a random video of the sun setting because you're a beachfront property, you can go ahead and you could put that right there in the description, or you could even put it in the gallery. And again, people just like video. They like seeing. They don't like seeing photoshopped pictures with color-corrected water or, you know, everything else that we do.
We?
Not us. So, do you see that little icon there with the little Facebook? You actually are able to insert your social media links. And so, in the back end, it'll just look like a link, but on the front end, because you selected in the back end that was Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it actually come up with a little icon, and those are pretty universal now. So again, just adding as much information as you can to your listing to provide the consumer with as much relevant information as possible. Now, if you go down a little bit, so if we're on the website, I would have us scroll down to the bottom of their listing, and they do a really good job at providing a lot of information that's relevant to the consumer. So, are pets allowed? How close are you to the airport? You know, what are your office hours? Where are you located? And stuff like that. So those are all things in the back end, again, that you can go ahead and you can fill out. And again, I'm just reiterating, you know, put as much relevant information as you can, because you don't have to put this. You could literally have a picture and then one sentence, but it's not going to be necessarily incredibly beneficial to you guys. Okay? And then last but not least, Lonely Planet is somehow connected to everything I was just telling you, because we pull our Lonely Planet listing data out of our back end. So in the back end, there's a tab and it says Lonely Planet. If you do not fill out this tab, you might not be included in the book. And so we're actually currently going through a revision phase right now. And so you have until October 20th to do so. But if you're an attraction or you're a hotel and you log into the back end, just really make sure that you take a look at that Lonely Planet section, because that's where we pull the data from. And so a lot of people get confused because they'll be like, oh, I have a business listing, but I wasn't in the book this year, and I want everyone in here to be in the book, and I don't want you guys to be blindsided with this. So that every tab in the back end is really important. The Lonely Planet tab is really, really important.
When is that book published?
So this year was a little bit different. We were in contract for a little more than expected. So typically the book is published and pushed out like January. This year it's going to be March. It's going to be March.
And we're transparent. Long story short, our new procurement office of the county wouldn't allow us to run our contract through our agency contract, which means we had to contract with Lonely Planet as a municipality, and it had to go through the county attorney's office, multiple rounds through procurement, slowed the process down, which is, you know, it's okay, it slowed it down. You know, we missed some deadlines, but we're moving forward, and now we've got a multi-year contract all tidied up with Lonely Planet. So it'll be few months late this year for 2018, but then for the following 2 years, we're good to go.
So it'll be out by January then?
Pardon?
So it'll be out by January then, or?
No, this year, March, April.
No, I know, but after that?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It'll feel to us like we're in constant Lonely Planet production mode, but that's just the way it is. I say that, and Courtney and Josh are the ones that are working on that. But anyway, yeah, we just had to do things a little different with the county, a little longer, but we've had to work out.
Okay, so I know I kind of sped through that because I want to get you guys out of here, but if you have any questions, I'm seriously here to help, and I work a lot in the back end, and I know I work a lot with you guys, whether, you know, if there's any concerns or you're just confused or you're like, he said something about this and that, and I can't remember, that's my contact information up there. I'm in office all week. And you can also go to leavecb.com, and then under marketing support, if you go to web and image guidelines, those packets that were printed there are there. There's actually, there'll be information about Lonely Planet and a video tutorial that you can just watch. You could just follow my mouse on the screen, on your screen as well. So I hope it was helpful, and if you can take anything out of it, just remember the pod image. It's really important. So thank you guys. I really appreciate you being here with everything that's been going on, okay?
All right. Because of the time, and we did go over, we won't go through this whole glossary of key terms that LA mentioned to you before, but We have your email addresses. We can send you out a link. We can post, as I said, we'll post this presentation on Leave VCB and maybe just send you the link. But this really can be just a quick reference for all of you. You know, we have acronyms. We have so many different things that we talk about and don't think twice about. And we thought it was important to share some of those things with you, those terms with you as well. So there's 2 pages, I think. I think I just turned it off. There we go. So hopefully this was helpful. We're going to hang out here for a little bit. If anybody wants to come up and talk to myself or any member of our team, answer any questions that you have, schedule a time for you to come talk to us in more detail about anything. But again, thanks to everybody for coming. We hope this was helpful today. And if you didn't get your parking ticket validated, Lisa can help you with that. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you.